to help with my PowerPoint presentation. I kind of messed up. I'm going to leave the slide off, making sure I'm good. All right. Good morning, everybody. Aaron brought it to my attention afterwards. Whoever puts together that bulletin needs to get their act together. I don't know who it is. So it's not exactly going to be a potluck on the 24th. I mean, in a form, it kind of will be. The Taylors are awesome, and they are going to be providing the protein for us that day. And so in the next week or so, we'll probably compile a sign-up list for us to bring some appropriate sides for it. So kind of like a potluck, but not really. So just know that. Alrighty, if you will, would you please bow with me? Father in heaven, we thank you so much for today. We thank you for all the blessings that you've given us. We thank you for this church. We thank you for the word that we get to study today. Father, help us, as always, to hide behind the cross every time we study your word, whether individually or as a group, and help us to remember that you are leading us, that you are giving us these words, and it is not ours to manipulate. We love you. It's in Jesus Christ and we pray to you. Amen. This is one of the most famous stories in all the Bible. A great storm. It's led upon on the Sea of Galilee, which is actually not a sea, rather a massive lake that is so massive that they would call it a sea, of course. In Galilee, it is a massive valley, a narrow valley, but a big one. And so because of this, what's going to happen is you're going to have these massive wind gusts tunneling through. And so when you have this lake, and so fishermen don't necessarily get out on these massive freight boats, they're going to be small fishermen boats. You have these massive gusts of wind that are going to create these massive waves, these terrible storms, that a little fisher boat is going to struggle to get through. Now, these men are professionals. They typically can kind of get through them. But this happens to be a pretty big one. And we see the apostles, many of them fishermen. They are on this boat, and Jesus walks on these waves to them. And so Peter, being the ambitious apostle, asks to join him. Jesus simply says, "Come." He does so, and in this moment he sinks out of fear because he takes his focus off of Jesus and starts looking to the wind. He cries out, "Lord, save me." And Jesus brings up a question that may seem a little odd if we start really looking into it. Why did you doubt? Now, I mean, here's the deal. We get it, of course. Did he doubt? That's why he sank? Of course. But why? If I'm a child and I see my kid do something incredible, and then, yeah, they struggle, my initial thought would be like, hey, you know what? You failed the last bit, but good job. No one else had the faith to jump out on the water. Why is Jesus' response, "You have little faith. Why did you doubt?" What brings about this reaction? Today we're going to start at least 6-part series. It might end up being an 8-part series. Not exactly certain on that, but at least a 6-part series titled The Questions of Jesus. Jesus is going to ask people questions. Some of them, it's not meant to receive a response. Some of them will have a response. Some may be rhetorical, but we're going to look at a handful of the questions that Jesus asks people, starting with today, why did you doubt? And I want us to try to talk about this because, again, this was an amazing feat of faith from Peter. Who of you would be willing to jump out and on the water and know for certain that if Jesus just says, come on out here, that I'll be able to just walk on water without sinking, and not just any water, but a massive storm? Who of me, has the type of faith to say that? And yet, because he then starts to doubt a little bit in the process, why is Jesus' question? Why is it so important for us to grasp? Why, he says, why did you doubt? We're going to examine that today, and I hope that we can understand. Per usual, I'm going to throw out what we hope to learn at the beginning of the lesson. Accept the challenging things and look to Jesus in the process. Now, I think that's going to be pretty basic, a pretty basic statement, but I hope that we can properly understand why Jesus said, why did you doubt? Because he wants us to accept challenging things, but he needs us to look at him in the process, not look at anything else. But let's break this down for a second. Let's break down why Jesus would say, why did you doubt? Jesus is going to, in this story, he is going to say 3 different statements. So let's look at those 3 as our 3 points, shall we? The first is going to get across this concept. Take Jesus with courage. The first statement that we are going to find in Matthew chapter 14, verses 25 through 27, is going to come across this concept of take Jesus with courage. Verse 25 reads this, and in the 4th watch of the night, he came to them walking on the sea. Now, this seems pretty simple, but let's break this down for a second. I'm not going to read it, but feel free to keep your hand in your Bible and flip over to Mark chapter 6, verse 48. What we're going to find is, of course, in the Gospels, they're going to oftentimes tell the same story, but from a slightly different perspective. Mark chapter 6 and verse 48 is going to show something very interesting, very compelling about this story. You see, Jesus, before this, had told his apostles, hey, go on ahead of me, I'll meet you at the other side. What that means is, no matter what's going to happen, they're going to make it to the other side, right? That's what's going to happen. And he says, I'm going to meet you there. Well, what happens in Mark chapter 6, verse 48? He didn't intend to walk to them. He intended to walk past them. Because that's what was going to happen. They were all going to meet on the other side. He had every intention of just showing them this amazing feat of God, of him walking on the water. And that was supposed to be kind of the encouragement that they needed. Okay, follow him, right? But he knew that the storms were getting a little too hard for them, and he changed his course. And now we see that he's walking on the sea to them. Before he was past them and, hey, follow me. But actually, no, they need me. So I'm going to come to them. I'm going to change the course. We're not going to meet at the sea, at the other side of the sea. Of course, we'll be there together. But we're going to meet in the middle of the sea. The reality is, life is tough, and we need Jesus. If we're just getting down to the bare basics of it, life is difficult. You are going to have difficult moments all throughout your life. And Jesus may have an expectation of you, but oftentimes he is going to kind of not make your course change, but maybe even make his influence in your life, but his activity in your life change maybe a little bit. He may be like, all right, you can do it. You got this. Okay, maybe you don't got this. Let me help you. Let me send that person who is going to encourage you with my words to you. He is going to be there with you. There has never been a time in human history where someone said, you know what, I need Jesus. Hey, let me tap his shoulder and get his attention. Now, that doesn't happen. There have been times that Jesus has maybe waited for someone to actually ask him. But he's ready. He knows when you need him. He knows how you need him. And simply what we see in verses 26 and 27, when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, "It is a ghost," and they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Take courage, it is I. Do not be afraid." Jesus is making a very simple statement. Hey, I expected y'all were going to be on the other side of the sea. You're not. I expected that you guys would be moving that direction. You're kind of freaking out right now. Okay, you need me. Take courage. It is I. Do not be afraid. This starts off something important for the remainder of this lesson. The something important that we need to understand is this. Jesus didn't ask them for really anything at this point except for courage. That's all he asked for. He said, hey, just, take me in, it's me, and just have courage. Through the struggles that they were going through, that's all he needed from them. There are many times that you are going through so much in this life, and maybe all Jesus needs from you is take courage, have faith, trust in him. There you go. That's great. We have an amazing God who allows that, but the story doesn't end here. There is also the next part. I don't think, though Jesus is going to allow you to just sit in his comfort, I don't think that's necessarily what he would like you to remain doing. What he'd also like to see you do is take the hard step that others won't. Yeah, life is tough. Life is difficult. And maybe, just maybe, all you need is comfort right now. I get that. There are certain times in our life that all we need is comfort. Please take that. But there comes a point where Jesus needs you to now go, okay, I am here. I am comforted. Now, get to work. Make it a little bit harder on yourself. There was a runner by the name of Steve Prefontaine. Unfortunately, Mr. Prefontaine passed away at the age of 24 in a car wreck. But man, what his career could have been. Because what his career was incredible. Let me just read his stats to you. Steve Prefontaine won 119 out of 151 outdoor track races. Won. We're not saying like second, third place. He won first place. Including 7 NCAA titles, 3 AAU titles. He also set 15 American records and was the first person to win 4 consecutive NCAA titles in the same event. This man, his record was incredible in the short years that he ran. Something interesting about him, experts say he probably could have had a better record had he changed one thing about him. You see, he was fast. He could beat anyone at speed. Didn't have an issue there. But here's what he did. If you're a long-distance runner, you might know that you want to hold back a little bit. The first several, maybe even most of the laps, you're going to hold back a little bit. You're going to jog, just kind of stay at pace with everyone. You're not going to take away your energy too fast, so that the last lap or two you can really go as fast as possible. Steve didn't like that. He didn't like that one bit. He simply, as soon as the first gun shot, he was running and he was going as hard as he could. Sometimes that meant that he became exhausted and lost the race. Now, he was so fast that he would have beat anyone had he held back, but he didn't like doing that. He didn't like holding back. He simply wanted to run as hard as he could, even though the average coach would have told him, don't do that. You could have won almost 100% of your races had you just held back. But this is what he said about it. To give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift. He knew that he had a gift to give to the sporting world. And he didn't want to hold back. Everyone else said it would be so much easier if you held back. And you would win actually a lot more than the amount of times that you won. But he just simply said, no, I'm not going to do that. Here's the deal. Life is hard. It is. But Jesus would love for you to simply say, yes, life's hard. But I'm going to give my best regardless of how hard it is. I'm going to continue on. Verses 28 and 29 says, but Peter said to him, Lord, if it is you, command me to come on the water. Again, this is not anything that Jesus said he had to do. But he still did it. He said, command me to come to you on the water. And simply what Jesus says is, come. Jesus accepts that request. Says, sure, let's do it. And Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came toward Jesus. Peter took the hard step. Again, I'll keep saying this phrase, life is hard. It is. But there's a lot of works that this community and this church needs from you. This community, this church needs teachers, needs people to preach to them. This community, this church needs leaders in certain special individual ministries. This community and this church needs people to take care of the children who are in need. This community and this church needs people who are going to take care of those who are older in life and now cannot take care of themselves. This community, this church needs people to volunteer to teach our young and our older. The list goes on. And I'm going to say this congregation is blessed with a lot more people doing that than the average congregation does. I'm just going to say that. I mean, the time that I've got to spend here over the past a little less than a year, the encouragement that you all have brought me, I have seen some very active congregations. And typically, I'll say the correlating factor is those active congregations with a lot of teachers, a lot of people wanting to preach, a lot of people wanting to serve, a lot of people leading ministries. Typically, they also had a preaching school connected to that congregation. So you had about 30 preachers saying, like, come on, keep going to the whole congregation, right? So it just kind of made sense. You had a bunch of people pestering them. I show up here, and this congregation has that same energy, without 30 some odd preachers pestering him. Guys, it's easy. Out of just about any other congregation I've seen, it's very easy to jump in and do the hard things here because you're going to have a lot of other people doing the same. I encourage you to do so. Why do I encourage you to do so? Number one, because, like I said, this church, this community needs it. But number two, let's just look at the symbolism of what is talked about in this verse. Before, it said that Jesus was coming to them. But now, we see that Peter is coming towards Jesus. Guys, what's happening? The harder things that you do, the closer you get to Jesus. The people in this congregation who are working hard are getting closer to Jesus than those who are not. I'm sorry if that steps on your toes, but it's the reality, right? The more we study, the more we understand that that is a reality. The harder we work, the more we have in common with Jesus, the closer we get to Jesus. That's just the way it is. That's a reality. Take the hard step. You are going to grow closer to Jesus. You are going to be a great, not just example, but impact for the community and for the kingdom if you take that hard step. But finally, we need to understand that we need to take what we asked for with faith. That is the key, guys. Why does Jesus say this? But seeing the wind, he became frightened and began to sink. He cried out, "Lord, save me." He's still asking for Jesus. He still needs him. He's not looking to someone else to save him. He's asking for Jesus to save him. Immediately, Jesus stretched out his hand, took hold of him, and said to him, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" Let me paint a picture, guys. If this seems all too relatable, I'm assuming most everyone in here who has taken on something hard for the sake of Christ is probably going to relate to Peter and relate to this scenario. Let me paint the picture. You've been praying about some type of ministry. I'm not sure what it is. It's individual to you. Maybe there's something important that you see this community that needed. Maybe it was teaching the young, teaching the old, preaching, whatever it may be. You've been praying about this ministry, knowing that this needed to happen. And then Jesus says yes. You get that opportunity to get in, get your hands dirty, jump into the water like Peter did. And maybe at first, at the beginning, it is great. Things are going good. You are excited. Then suddenly, what you knew was going to happen has happened. It gets hard. I mean, you saw it, right? You knew it wasn't going to be easy. You knew it wasn't going to be a cakewalk, which I don't even get that phrase because walking a cake is pretty difficult. You knew it wasn't going to be easy. And yet, you did it anyway, right? Right? And why did you do it? Because you loved Jesus and you had faith in him, right? And then, like I said, it gets difficult. What do you lose focus on? You were looking at Jesus and you start focusing on what was difficult. Was Peter not in the boat already? He was in the boat. Did Peter not see the wind already? He saw the wind. Did Peter not see the waves already? He saw the waves. He chose to have faith, which was great. But in the moment that he had that faith, and he asked Jesus, "Can you make it more difficult?" And Jesus said, "Yes." He got out and instantly forgot what he'd already asked for Jesus to help him in the process. Guys, I've had this moment way too many times. I'm just going to have to admit it. There have been times that I have been praying about something, praying for more. I'll even admit pretty recently. I prayed for more, wanted good things to happen. Good things did happen. But those good things brought a lot more on my plate. And I didn't lose faith in Jesus. Like Peter, what did he say? "Lord, save me." He wasn't suddenly asking for some other God. He was still looking to the Lord. He was still a faithful man. But he was so much more focused on the hard than he was on the one who was going to make it easy. So many times in my life, I've gotten so much more focused on the hard that I knew was going to happen. A year ago, praying, "Lord, give me a great ministry and great people to work with." And it happened, and yet what happens when there's a lot of work to do? A lot of stuff goes on your plate, right? And then suddenly you focus on that and start freaking out about that. Guys, why did I doubt? Why do you doubt? Oh, ask for the hard things. Don't let this last portion of this sermon discourage you from asking for the hard things. Pray that you can be a part of a ministry that is important, that matters to people's lives, that encourages people. Pray for that. Understand that it's going to be hard. But we've got to remember that when the hard actually comes, when it is actually difficult, I must remember that I must fix my gaze upon the one who is going to make it easy. He's the one who gave you that ministry. So you should assume that he is also the one who's going to guide you through that ministry. He is the one who said, "Join me in the water." Understand that as you get closer to him, as you build that relationship with him, and as you do the good things, he fully intends to be right alongside you. So don't be like Peter and look at the hard things. Just don't. Look to Jesus. Look to the one who you wanted to join in the first place. Do you need help with that right now? Specifically, I always like at the end of the lesson not to just do a generic invitation. Specifically right now, has the ministry that you've been handed been tough? It's been hard. There's no shame in that. There's no shame in letting us all know that. If you need prayers to be like, hey, what I've been going through right now, what God has handed in my lap to work with has just been a lot. It has. Do you need prayers? Do you even need help? Because we can help lighten the load of that ministry. Come forward, seek help. Talk to me afterwards if you need to. Talk to one of the elders afterwards if you need to. We want to pray for you. We want to be there for you and help you get through this. But also, if there's anything else that you need, if life has gotten difficult and you need this congregation's prayers, please come forward. And if you've not been added to the Lord's church yet through the waters of baptism for the forgiveness of your sins, then come forward right now as together we stand and sing.